I think it's appropriate to begin this final episode of Season 2 with a story of a field that may have started it all, may have started this whole project of Shoeless Joe and Field of Dreams. It's a story of a real-life Ray Kinsella who built his field 10 years before W.P. Kinsella sat down to write his story about ball fields and cornfields and ghosts. Could Kinsella have known about this field? I'll talk about this possibility with a Hall of Fame historian. After I tell you this tale, I'm going to have some final thoughts about Fields of Dreams and the people involved. I'll also have a listener baseball story. And because this is the Season 2 finale, this story will be my own.
This book really should have never been written. The film should have never been made.
I sort of have this feeling that one of the reasons I was born, was to be part of this, to get this out into the culture.
What they didn't count on was the word of mouth, that people would see it and then just say, oh my God, you have to go see this movie. It ended up defying the odds.
Midnight Library of Baseball presents Season 2, The Making of Field of Dreams. From unlikely inception to enduring impact across generations. I'm Ben Orlando. I met Tim Wiles through Rob Scheinkoff and Dick Crepeau, the dynamic duo who investigated real-life cases of Eddie Sissons syndrome, or men lying about being former Major League Baseball players. During their investigation, they talked to Tim Wiles, who worked at Cooperstown at the time. Wiles would run into Eddie Sissons syndrome sufferers every day, and he'd also send letters to family members who believed their deceased father or brother or husband had played, and they wanted to mention specifics in the obituary. It was Tim Wiles' job to break the bad news over and over again. Halfway through Season 2, I got an email from Tim. He says, "Hey, have you heard of this guy, Larry Lubers, who moved an entire Major League ball field to his farm in northern Kentucky?" My response to Tim was, no. In fact, what the heck are you talking about? The next email from Tim came with an article in Sports Illustrated from 1976 titled, "Right There in His Own Backyard." Tim and I sat down to discuss this amazing story and the implications to W.P. Kinsella, Shoeless Joe, and Field of Dreams. It's great talking to you again. We talked in episode 4. So you brought this to my attention, Crosley Field, and the question is, could W.P. Kinsella have had this in mind, consciously or unconsciously, as he was writing the book?
Okay. We are both referring to when Crosley Field in Cincinnati closed in 1970, a farmer and salesman from Union, Kentucky, not far from Cincinnati, purchased large parts of it and basically recreated it on his farm. For me, I was reading Sports Illustrated in 1976, and in that issue, there's a detailed article about Larry Lubers. But it wasn't until I was working at the Hall of Fame, starting in 1995, that it came back to me one day. And I was like, oh, yeah, there was a real life thing that was like the Field of Dreams. And it was just such an outlandish and wonderful idea. Baseball is a game that very much appeals to romantics. And Crosley Field is a classic, or was a classic, sort of 1920s, 1930s ballpark, site of the first Major League night game. So Larry Lubers rebuilt the field with the exact same dimensions on his property and everything. And he was an interesting guy, according to the article. He had been in the seminary becoming a priest. And during Game 5 of the 1961 World Series, the priest that was in charge walked right into the room and turned off the TV so that Larry couldn't watch the World Series anymore. And this was a pivotal moment in his life.
It's funny throughout this podcast, I think about what makes a good story and what makes us want to retell a story to others. And you caught on this one piece, and I'm looking at the article right now about Larry Lubers, and he's in the priesthood, he's studying, and he says, I was watching the game, the World Series 1961. Wait Hoyt was doing the commentating just as Wally Post hit a home run. The priest shows up and clicks off the set, right? And he says, right away, I thought, is this my life or not? And I walked out of there and never went back. That's fantastic. That's
It
a
is.
great
Really is.
story.
I guess he, to borrow from another movie, believed more in the Church of Baseball than in the Church of Church with W.P. Kinsella. I love that you said at the beginning of the question, it could have been conscious on his part or it could have been unconscious on his part. I think if we could ask W.P. Kinsella about it, he would completely disavow that he'd ever heard the
Yes.
story of Cincinnati
Yes.
before, the Reds, Crosley Field. But to me, it's a darn strong coincidence. And it makes me just, I can't say that I believe Kinsella read this Sports Illustrated story, but I think he did. I just don't know he did.
Yeah. This goes to in Willie Steele's biography, he talks about Kinsella to get ideas. He would, wherever he was, he would read the newspaper and really mine the pages for
Mm-hmm.
what could be turned into an interesting, maybe fantastical story. And
Mm-hmm.
so this in Crosley Field in Larry Luber's farm that existed from what 1970 to the early to mid 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
It's a great story.
well, it is a great story. And thinking of the overlaps, Larry Luber's building this on his field, the owner, because he rented or at least the land,
Mm-hmm.
and the owners weren't too keen on that, and he ended up paying them off.
And that's a parallel, as you're pointing out, with the movie.
Yeah. And then,
Uh,
of course, lots of people thought he was crazy for
mm-hmm.
doing it.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. In fact, I found a great quote. There was a bar, a tavern across the street from his farm called the Bullpen, and a bartender is quoted as saying about Larry Lubers Sr., I guess there's some that thinks he's crazy, but he don't care. Some guys collect old cars. Larry collects old ball fields.
Yeah. 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 That's a great line. I feel like if they would make a movie out of this, that would be in the trailer, right? That line right there.
Amazingly, you want to talk about magical realism. Larry Lubers ran a kids league called the Knothole League for several years. And Larry Lubers Jr. began playing on this replica Crosley Field at age 4. And then you want to talk about fathers and sons. Larry Lubers Sr. hit the first home run at the new Crosley Field off of his 6-year-old son in the twilight because he wanted to be the first person to hit a home run. Now, there's your father and son theme, which of course is not just the main theme of Field of Dreams, but really the main theme of much, if not most, baseball literature. But then Larry Lubers Jr. plays in the major leagues for the Cincinnati Reds.
Amazing.
It's just neither you nor I, nor maybe W.P. Kinsella could make this stuff up.
If you like the show, please donate at midnightlibraryofbaseball.com. You can also write a review on iTunes or Spotify. The reviews and ratings help grow the show. And now you can also sign up for a membership on Patreon, where you'll gain access to unaired interviews, posts, and additional episodes. Subscribe at patreon.com/midnightlibraryofbaseball. Now, back to the show. There's a lot more depth and fascinating detail in the Larry Luber's Crosley Field story, which I'll probably include in Season 3. But next, a listener baseball story. And this story is my own. Baseball has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I loved baseball cards. I loved the Red Sox and Wade Boggs. I have hundreds of Wade Boggs cards, most of which are now worthless because they're from the 80s. But I think I fixated on Boggs because he was different. He didn't hit a lot of home runs. He wasn't flashy. He was solid, dependable for a single or double off the green monster at Fenway. I think I felt a connection with Wade Boggs because he wasn't the traditional baseball superstar, and I felt outside of things in my life. I was shy and awkward. I was the kid, 8 years old, with Coke bottle glasses, which made it hard to play games where I had to run or focus on things, which is most games. Still, I played Little League, and I had a great arm in the outfield. I just couldn't hit. At all. My dad taught me how to play baseball, and I'm grateful to him for spending this time with me, but he didn't really know how to connect. Part of me looked forward to practicing and learning, and a part of me dreaded it. He was impatient and competitive. Sometimes it felt like there was a timer, a time limit until he got irritated. I couldn't learn fast enough. I was doing something wrong. I was wrong. And at the games, he was the guy by the fence screaming, "Stay calm, just take it easy," completely unaware that it was impossible to calm down when someone was shouting for you to do so. So, after a few years, I quit Little League. I turned to tennis, a sport where my dad knew nothing. But I still carried his voice with me. I was good, but I got frustrated easily. I sabotaged myself. The only place I was able to show anger was on the tennis court. And I showed it all the time, giving away points because of my conduct. Ejections were always close by. I became a writer. I've written hundreds of short stories, novels, thousands and thousands of pages. My dad has never read a single word. I love my dad, and I know he loves me. He's done a lot as a father and showed what he could in his way. I've tried to accept that, while I push down the other feelings of the relationship we never had. But you know what's a great lie detector? That final scene in Field of Dreams with Dwyer Brown and Kevin Costner. I could lie all I wanted to myself, but when I watch this scene, "Hey Dad, wanna have a catch?" This massive heartbreak, all of it, rips open my chest. It's like a flood coming up my throat, out my eyes and nose and mouth, smashing through all the dams I built over the years to hold it back. He's never seen me for who I am. And he never will. I've looked over the years for a deeper connection with my father, to play catch, to see each other, and toss the words back and forth. I sat down recently and tried again to play catch, to see if he could catch my words, my love, take them in, and throw them back. I asked my dad to talk in a recorded conversation for the podcast, and he agreed. I didn't know what would happen. I hoped for connection. Afterwards, I didn't know if I'd include our conversation, but listeners have been so open about their stories, I wanted to do the same. So, here it is. The audio is a little low here, And I'm joined in this conversation by my mother and wife. So what do you remember from your childhood in baseball?
Oh, we played ball a lot when we were kids with broken bats and taped up balls. We didn't have a lot of money either. I remember the bats were cracked. We put screws in them, then we tape them with electrical tape, and then we'd have balls that were all coming apart, and then we'd tape those with electrical tape. And we used to go to different fields, Moravian and Bethlehem. We used to walk all over. We used to walk everywhere. We'd walk a couple of miles just to go somewhere to play baseball. We used to play home run derby a lot, a bunch of guys.
Did they have a team in your school?
Hmm?
Did you play for your school?
I didn't play for school, no. I didn't play for high school, no. I thought it took up too much time. A lot of practice all the time. Now, you regret it later. It's like, I wish you would have done that. You know how that goes. And before you know it, you're 70-some years old. I remember Bobby Kemmer. He lives over by Jill. And we grew up together. He's a couple years older than me. But his mom was a big Philly fan. This is all in the 60s,
Did you?
That's when I was a teenager.
Did you have any association with your dad in baseball?
Nah, no, not really. No, we didn't really. I don't know. We didn't really discuss too much. We didn't really talk too much.
So from your memory, he didn't know anything or play baseball at all?
Hmm?
Like he didn't have any...
Who, my dad?
Yeah.
I don't remember anything pertaining to his youth. I don't remember anything. I don't remember him talking. I never really asked about it, I guess,
Anything else you remember about us in baseball? Going to the baseball card show?
Oh, yeah, I remember Ben and I went to this card show up in Allentown. That was pretty cool. Mickey Mantle was there.
Right.
Boy, I could kick myself for not getting his autograph, Mickey Mantle. That was back in the 80s. I'll never forget that.
Do you remember what it was like to watch Ben play Little League and baseball?
Yeah, I used to like to watch him play. I remember one time he hit a home run.
What was that like?
Oh, that was cool. That's always cool. That's still a big thing, on TV. The Yankees now, that Judge. What's his name? Judge, right? Man, that guy. He hits them on every angle, every part of the field.
Do you have a favorite memory with Ben?
No, I don't recall.
No favorites stand out.
No, I can't recall.
Do you have a favorite memory, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to the baseball card shows because that was something I really liked to do, and you took me.
Yeah, there was more, today that's like a thing of the past, those shows, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but in the moment, I really appreciated you taking me.
Yeah, well, they were, yeah, it was a big thing then. Especially, like I say, I don't even know if they have those anymore and have like the sports celebrities come in. And I don't even know if they do that. They must do that, but maybe not. Those guys are busy.
Could you tell when you were doing it that he appreciated it?
I don't remember. I do remember one thing that when we were at that time, that big one in Allentown, Ben. I worked with a guy down a steel, and he was like, how old was I? 80. I was in my 30s. Reds Miller, and he was in his.
A major theme, the biggest theme of this entire season 2, The Making of Field of Dreams, is the theme of searching and finding. all of these people searching for something and finding something. But you may not find what you were originally looking for. That doesn't mean you won't find something or someone to help you heal your wounds. During the course of this project, I found so many people willing to play catch, to help me heal my wounds. And I think this really comes through in my last conversation with Dwyer Brown.
I heard James Earl, I think, saying it first. Just the beauty of the whole idea of having a catch, and how difficult it is sometimes with parents like mine, like my father, who were not expressive and were hard to open those heavy conversations with. And that the exchange of the ball is very similar to the exchange of emotional whatever. I give to you when you throw the ball, and I get from you when I catch it. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a beautiful thing. And I feel like, in a funny way, I just did this big speech in Dallas with a bunch of lawyers, and I was kind of intimidated lawyers, I thought, but most of them were just like, wow, man, thank you. I hadn't thought about my dad that way in a long time. And like they turned into just little boys like everyone else.
And it's so wonderful that you've been able to really understand and learn how to be yourself and model that to other people. And what a difference it makes for people to see somebody being themselves. And it really cuts through, as you say.
Yeah. I think if I had become, more famous or something like that, it would be a nuisance that people remember me for this 5 minutes, and I did do other big parts and all that stuff, but this is what I got into acting for, was to, It's a Wonderful Life kind of effect on people, where, how great would it be if you could somehow watch a movie of your life without you in it, and to see all the things that you've contributed that you never even thought of. And I guess that's sort of what it feels like with this, with the Field of Dreams thing, that people give me so much credit for this little 5 minutes, and I get access to their whole heart, because, like, wow, what an insult that would be to people if I was like, please leave me alone, like, because I ran a theater and taught acting classes, I always taught my students that even if you think you've done a bad job, when they applaud for you, don't give that old, like, where you do the face like, I had an off night. I'm going to let you know that wasn't my best performance. So, like, you're apologizing. They're saying thank you. And it's incumbent on you to say you're welcome in the most gracious way you can. That's, again, like a catch. You're throwing me something. If I blow you off in any way, it's an insult to you. And it's a betrayal of that connection and that conversation.
I think some of the things that you're saying that may seem obvious or natural are not to most people. And I had a very similar conversation. I can almost like overlap your words in terms of taking compliments and what that does for the other person, and to how meaningful that is. And we often don't see the other side of it.
Yeah. In fact, one of these lawyers this last week, she came up afterwards, and I sort of tried to do an acting class with these 190 lawyers. I had them get up and, do stuff. And this woman was clearly had a good sense of humor. But she came up to me afterwards. She said, you know what? That thing just made me realize that I do not take compliments. And it was all about me telling her, because she kind of read this little thing that she was supposed to perform and then was apologizing and I stopped her and I said, no, please let these people applaud for you and really take it in. And it was so touching to me that she came up afterwards and said, wow, I didn't realize how I just don't take compliments well. It's sad. It's a very common problem, but it's just so cool when you can, when people realize it, because geez, it doesn't happen that often. And if we push away anytime it does. It's, we're really cutting ourselves off from, a lot of the good stuff, and I mean, I had to learn it too. Like this movie is a prime example. I just kind of deflected as much as I could for the first 25 years. And then when I wrote the book, I thought, oh, wow, this is not right. People are trying to bring that to me, and they're not likely to run into Kevin Costner, but if they run into me, I'm accepting their praise for the whole movie, and to, deflect that in any way is just not being gracious. I appreciate you, Ben, letting me talk to you again.
Well, I was just going to pass that one along when you said, I appreciate you reaching out and talking to me. So thank you. And I really appreciate you helping out. You've offered so much during this process.
Thank you, Ben,
Okay.
and good luck with this. I'm so excited. I love your voice. So I'm looking forward to listening.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Dwyer.
Bye.
So I was searching for a deeper bond with my father, but I ended up connecting with and having a catch with Dwyer Brown, who played the father in Field of Dreams. It's unbelievable. This season for me has been full of crazy, unbelievable stories. But there's one more story to tell. W.P. Kinsella had only a short story, 16 pages long, until editor Lawrence Kesenick reached out and convinced him to turn the short story into the novel Shoeless Joe, which Kesenick edited. Years later, Lawrence Kesenick edited Dwyer Brown's book, If You Build It, a book about father's fate and Field of Dreams. Well, I'm a writer, and I wrote a baseball novel which actually kicked off this whole journey. It's a novel about a female knuckleball pitcher who has a chance to try out for the major leagues. And recently, Lawrence Kesenick edited my novel. I can't even wrap my head around this. The man who edited Shoeless Joe edited my novel. With all the magic floating around this season, this story, and the people involved, I can't help but see this as some kind of sign. And hopefully, all of you will be able to read it soon. We're all here listening to this podcast, watching this movie, because we're searching for something. Maybe a father or loved one like Ray Kinsella. Maybe a renewed passion for something we used to love, like Terrence Mann. For me, I found a whole baseball team of players willing to help me out. On the roster, Phil Alden Robinson, Brian Frankish, Lawrence Kesenick, Dwyer Brown, Willie Steele, Tim Busfield, Marjorie Simpkin, Russell Williams, Tim Wiles, Charles Hoyes, Wendell Jarvis, Van Ling, Rob Scheinkoff, and Dick Crapeau, and all of the wonderful listeners who contributed to this amazing project. When I started this, I had no idea what I was searching for. I heard the voice inside me, and at some point, as Jerry Ryan said, it was like deciding to go down to the store for some milk. It was just something I was going to do. I'm also grateful to myself for pushing myself, for asking people for things. For example, a month ago, I reached out to Phil Alden Robinson and asked if he could put me in contact with Kevin Costner. Robinson had already been so generous and helped me in so many ways. I didn't want to ask him for something else, but at the same time, why not? After I wrote and sent the email, I realized I'd sweat through my shirt. The idea of imposing, of stepping over the boundary, was terrifying, but I did it. I'm still hoping to hear from Kevin Costner, But it doesn't matter, really, because I've learned so much about myself. Thank you, everyone who's involved in this project. I still can't believe all these amazing stories from this 40-year project, from W.P. Kinsella and his initial inspiration, to the short story and novel and movie and field, to the millions of people today who still watch and love the film and still visit and love the field. There are plenty of stories I didn't include, and I'll probably put together content on that at some point. And I'll be putting many of your stories on the website. To all the Field of Dreamers out there, I hope you've enjoyed this series as much as I have. But that's all for now, for Season 2. And I'll see you in Season 3. The show is produced and edited by me, Ben Orlando. Music by Sergi Papkin and Ashot Danielyan. Good night.